Cartoons are for kids is one of the most commonly used sayings when talking about cartoons, animation, or even anime. But why do so many people think that cartoons are just for kids when there are so many moments in adult cartoons and even kids cartoons proving that they are not?
And now you know where babies come from.
Goodbye, childhood.
Get comfortable, because a teenager is about to tell you why. Why is it that someone will tell you, you're too old to be watching cartoons? You can't watch cartoons, they're for kids. Stop watching Caillou and take out the trash! Cartoons are described as a simple drawing showing the features of its subject in a humorously exaggerated way, especially in a satirical one in a newspaper or magazine. Now, if you've never heard the word cartoon before and you read this, you would think that cartoons are for kids. Humorously and exaggerated are things that people who think cartoons are only for kids think about. Because if I were to show you regular show and you saw these funny anthropomorphic characters playing video games, your brain would instantly go to, oh, well, that's definitely for kids. And for that, I wouldn't blame you. The colorful backgrounds and the often unrealistic characters and movements would make you think that the show is just for kids. But if you've even seen one episode of regular show, you would know that's not true.
I'll kill you!
There are so many times throughout cartoon history where a cartoon has gone over the top or way too far with a specific scene or moment that has left viewers speechless and kids crying. But even with so many moments proving that cartoons aren't for kids, an adult with no childhood left will get pissed off if they see another adult friend or teenager watching a kid's cartoon. I'll get into that later, but focusing on the argument cartoons are for kids. If you think about that for even 1 second, you'll realize it's absolutely insane. Did you just use a crazy cartoon sound effect? I hate you. Let's say my name is Jeff, and for some reason I just hate cartoons. Every time someone is watching a cartoon show, I'm just thinking that they should grow up and watch something that adults actually should be watching. Like Peppa Pig. There are so many people who think, oh, reality TV is great because I'm watching real people do real human things and I'm connecting with them. That's why cartoons are bad. And no, you're just watching someone doing something that is considered terrible, but you enjoy it because you physically cannot relate to a cartoon character. That's stupid. I'm not saying that if you only watch live action reality TV and sitcoms that you have no good taste in media, because I like to watch bad reality TV and good sitcoms that I think are actually interesting and funny too.
Zing it, girl!
But no offense, if you get home from a big day of work and make a delicious spaghetti and meatball dinner and turn on the TV to watch Young Sheldon, I am afraid of the person you will become. No matter what age you are, if you can't wrap your head around the idea that cartoons are not only for kids, give one of these shows a try and I can assure you that you will change your mind. But to really understand why people think this way, we have to take a deep dive into the... So if you're anything like me, you have a deep love for cartoons and you're very single. Those two things just kind of mesh together. Anyway, cartoons have existed for such a long time, with the first ever fully animated film being Fantasy by Emily Cole, which was a short animation of doodles and lines morphing into each other that doesn't make much sense because it was made in 1902, but it was 1902, so nothing did. Even with the first cartoon ever, you could still argue that cartoons are for kids because of the fun and playfulness of the animation and the style, but that's a big reason why such a broad audience was interested in it in the first place. But I'll talk more about that later. But then in 1928, Mickey Mouse's first appearance ever was in the black and white cartoon short Steamboat Willie. Okay, just skip past. Do not make a joke. Just go past. Just carry on. Just do not make a... Willie! This was the first ever synchronized cartoon with sound. Oh, he did it! He did the thing! This actually feels like the origin of cartoons because of the goofy nature. You're not that goofy. But the animated and bouncy happy feeling you get from watching Mickey pull tails of a bunch of innocent animals.
Do you like squeaky toys?
It doesn't get any better than this. But it definitely did, because in 1930, Looney Tunes, Betty Boop, and Warner Brothers Animation was founded. And this marks the golden age of animation. This created so many iconic characters like Mickey, Minnie, Bugs Bunny, Felix the Cat, Woody Woodpecker, and even goddamn Tom and Jerry. Which, oh my god, dude, I could do a whole video talking about this show, but instead, just let me say this. Tom and Jerry is one of my absolute favorite cartoons ever made. The amazing animation and sound effects, the hilarious moments, and the amazing plot that is literally just a cat chasing a mouse, but it is so interesting and so entertaining. The characters don't even speak. Well, actually, they do say one thing. The music and the amount of rooting I did for Tom to finally catch Jerry, and if you're a Jerry supporter, How could you? You cheese-loving freak. Yeah, go pray to Jesus and think about how Tom is so much greater. So if you're an older person or just personally love cartoons from this era, I can fully understand that. Cartoons from the 1930s were fantastic. A lot of them used the rubber hose style, which is a really cool bendy limbs and crazy unnatural style of animation that took over in this era, and it inspired so many newer cartoons and even video games like Cuphead. And I just have so many memories of watching Tom and Jerry with my granddad and him just laughing his ass off and then just coughing everywhere. Ah, memories. But the one complaint I do have about the golden era of cartoons was that they were just a teeny bit, just a little bit, they were racist. Especially the old Disney animated cartoons and movies, which do creep me out a bit, so I don't see myself going back to the golden era as much as I probably should. But let's cartoon run past that. Then in the 1940s, some full-length cartoon movies were released like Pinocchio.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Ah, not that one. Bambi, Casper the Ghost, and this. Wait, what? So yeah, there were also many cartoons about this guy, whose name I will not mention, or YouTube will absolutely destroy this video. From Looney Tunes to Walt Disney, there were so many cartoon episodes about this evil man. Just completely taking the piss out of him, and those parts are pretty hilarious. With again, this is for kids. Would you show this to a child? Because hot take, I don't think I would. Eventually, after transitioning out of the golden age, many cartoons would feature a cast of amazing characters and were released starting in the 1960s with the Flintstones, the Bugs Bunny Show, the Yogi Bear Show, the first ever anime TV show, Astro Boy, Pink Panther, and Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. And this eventually brings us to the 2000s and the 2010s, which, hold your applause, I will talk about later. And yes, I've had this in my left hand this whole time. So now I've gone over the history of cartoons, it's time to get deep into the argument of... Yeah, I know that new Paw Patrol episode was fantastic. Sorry, yeah, call you back later. Yeah, that was my wife. There are two arguments commonly said when an adult is talking about cartoons. One of the sides of the argument is, no, cartoons are not for kids. Kids' cartoons are for kids. Pretend I'm an adult, which I totally am, and I think that adults can only watch cartoons if they are adult cartoons. Things like Rick and Morty, Family Guy, South Park, BoJack Horseman, shows that you probably wouldn't show to your child. Let's look at this post taken from a Quora question about why people think cartoons are for kids. Why is animation not just for kids? Because there are shows which can show adult or teenage content as much as kids content. You see these pictures? We got SpongeBob, we got Max and Ruby, Caillou, and Paw Patrol. These shows are about friendship, sharing, and things like that. There are no bad words, sexual scenes, or anything of the sort. But if you look at these, Rick and Morty, Family Guy, I don't know what that is, and I don't know what that is. These shows involve sexual scenes, even if it's a joke, really bad curse words, gore, and other no, Sally, don't watch that scene. Though my brother watched Family Guy when he was little. Also, do any of you remember Ed, Edd and Eddy? A bit off topic, and yes, adult cartoons are supposed to be enjoyed by a mature audience because of the swearing, inappropriate jokes, and adult content. If a show like Smiling Friends is produced and made on Adult Swim, more adults are going to be more interested in that than the newest show on Nickelodeon. But if they also think they can't enjoy a show like Adventure Time because it's for ages 8 and up... Wait, so if an 8-year-old watched this show, it must be for children. You are stupid. Especially with a show like Adventure Time. Like, have you seen some of the clips to come from that show? An 8-year-old has to have some balls to be able to watch that. Even the Adventure Time Wikipedia says, despite being aimed primarily at children, the show has developed a following among teenagers and adults. Just because the show was released on Cartoon Network doesn't mean that it's only for kids. And just because the Cartoon Network age demographic is ages 6 to 12? 6 to 12? What 6-year-old is watching this?
Thanks for helping me with the website.
No problem.
With the Cartoon Network president, yes, that's a thing, saying this. When we started Adult Swim, that was the first moment where we were like, oh wait, if there's a thing for adults, then what is Cartoon Network now? It took us, I'd say, a couple of years to figure out what Cartoon Network was. Now it's more natural for it to be aimed at doing great animated shows for everybody at once. So the Cartoon Network president, for some reason, that sounds crazy to me, is talking about how after they made Adult Swim, they didn't know like what the audience for Cartoon Network was anymore. Now saying that it's more natural for it to be making great animated shows for everybody at once. With Michael also saying this. Cartoon Network always attracted a large 18 to 49-year-old audience, which is why the network introduced the Adult Swim block, which was later marketed and sold to advertisers as its own network. Cartoon Network attracted an 18 to 49-year-old audience, but it's also enjoyed by everyone from all ages. That's what makes it so great. But most people see a cartoon on a kids targeted network and automatically think that they can't enjoy that cartoon because it's for kids and there's no swearing, no dick and balls jokes jokes, and no Big Mouth. No Big Mouth! One thing that puts a lot of adults off from adult cartoons is the amount of terrible adult cartoon shows. Family Guy, Paradise PD, Big Mouth, R.C. McGee, which is a real cartoon, and I'm sorry that I had to introduce that to you. There are really no rules with these shows. They can make as many inappropriate jokes as possible, show blood, gore, and cartoon pee-pees, and adults love it. These shows that are just so over the top with sexual jokes and adult moments are just not as funny overall because you expect another joke about Peter Griffin's asshole any minute. This isn't me saying that there are no good adult cartoons, because all of these cartoons should be enjoyed and watched, but there's just way more bad compared to the good. Why do I voice crack? I'm a child. The second side of this argument is, you know what, I'm just gonna say that I think kids cartoons and adult cartoons are both good, which I've never heard anyone say before, but I 100% agree with. Cartoons should be enjoyed by everyone, from adults watching kids cartoons to kids watching adult cartoons. Maybe not that, but you know what, everyone should enjoy cartoons. If you're a 12-year-old kid and you're watching 5-year-old cartoons, you could argue that that is a little bit weird, but I would only agree with that if you were watching Coco Melon. But if I had kids, I would want them to be watching something that they could actually look back on and enjoy once they've grown up. For example, the elephant in the room. Not that elephant. If you have kids that are at least 5 years old, show them Gravity Falls. If it scars them, show them this video in like 10 years and say it's my fault. More on Gravity Falls later because I cannot wait to talk about that. Oh look, gravity fell. Nostalgia is one of the greatest reasons why people think cartoons are for kids, especially if they watched cartoons a lot in their childhood. But in reality, nostalgia is one of the greatest parts about cartoons. I've watched a lot of cartoons, and there are still amazing cartoons that come out every year that still make me love cartoons. But yes, everyone is like entitled to their own era that they grew up in. Older people around 60 to 100 years old would have grown up on cartoons like Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, and certain cartoons about an evil man. 40 to 60-year-olds would have grown up on the Flintstones, Yogi Bear, and Pink Panther. People born in the 1980s will be nostalgic for cartoons like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man, Thundercats, DuckTales, The Smurfs, and The Simpsons. If you grew up in the 1990s, you would have watched cartoons like Dexter's Lab, The Powerpuff Girls, Cat Dog, Ed, Edd and Eddie, Courage the Cowardly Dog, SpongeBob SquarePants, and everyone's childhood favorite, Happy Tree Friends. Then 2000, Samurai Jack, The Fairly Odd Parents, Invader Zim, Teen Titans, no not you, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Phineas and Ferb, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and so much more. But I couldn't do a section about nostalgia without bringing up my childhood cartoons and talking about how great they are. Yeah, I was born in the right generation, and you kids with your Dreamers and penises and Tic Tacs got nothing on me. If you're a teenager and grew up around the 2010s, then you know exactly what I'm about to say, but oh my god, dude, 2010 kids had the best cartoons. Regular Show, Adventure Time, The Amazing World of Gumball, Star Vista Forces of Evil, with Steven Universe, We Bear Bears, Over the Garden Wall, Wander Over Yonder, if anyone remembers that masterpiece, the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the one and only Gravity Falls. The cartoons I grew up on were absolutely insane, and that's not to say that there are no good cartoons now, because we've still got cartoons like the new DuckTales, Infinity Train, Green Eggs and Ham, The Cuphead Show, Amphibia, and The Owl House. Good cartoons are always coming out, and no matter how old you are, you can always enjoy a new cartoon that has come out in recent years, because there will always be good people making good cartoons. Dude, the amount of memories I have for cartoons like Regular Show, where me and my dad would sit down on the couch and just laugh our asses off at Muscle Man taking his shirt off and saying, "My mom."
If you say your mom, you're fired.
The Amazing World of Gumball just being so hilarious, and the animation style just being so fun and cool to watch. Over the Garden Wall, the 10-episode Halloween miniseries with some of the most beautiful and jaw-dropping animation you will ever see. And Gravity Falls, literally the best cartoon of all time. This cartoon is incredible. The mystery of the town of Gravity Falls, the secrets of who wrote the journals, the comedy, come on man, it's just the best.
Now that we're alone, Rosanna, there's a burning question which my heart longs to ask of you.
Oh, Reginald.
Hey! Wanna hear a joke? Here goes. My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better. Her aim is getting better. You see, it's funny because marriage is terrible. What?
Bill Cipher being such an insane villain, and the show being quote-unquote Alex Hirsch, the creator of the show.
It's just gonna be another goofy episode filled with silly jokes for kids.
And if you still think that cartoons are for kids, take a look at this. Yeah, I watched that when I was a child. And look at me, I turned out just fine. And bear in mind, this aired on the Disney Channel. The Disney! But seriously, no matter how old you are, if you haven't seen it already, check out Gravity Falls. It's only 2 seasons and 40 episodes, but it's unlike anything I've ever seen, and I'm so glad that I grew up on a show that's so groundbreaking, get it, and fantastic that I can still look back on it and rewatch it till this day and love it as much, if not more, than when I was a child. Because I'm an adult now. That's also why cartoons and animation is so great, because you could have watched a cartoon you really enjoyed when you were growing up, and then rewatching it when you're much older, you find a completely different meaning rewatching it. Jokes that went over your head you now find funny, older characters are more likable and relatable, and you will always cry at the finale. Cartoons are like fine wine. The more you drink, the better it tastes. Cartoons are like fine wine, and the more they age, the better they get. Cartoons keep you young, and they can make you completely forget about your worries and to-do list and things that you have to get done. You can just sit back and enjoy these cartoon characters move through and advance around a world that you feel like you are invested in. That's why childhood cartoons are so great, and if you haven't watched a cartoon since you were a child, then I challenge you to go back and re-watch it, and by the end, you will remember why you loved that cartoon in the first place. Unless it's Uncle Grandpa, which in that case, you're weird. Reliving those memories will keep you alive, and going on adventures with those cartoon characters again will bring you back to a time where everything was easier and you didn't have to take out the trash. Shut up, Mom, I'll do it tomorrow! This article written in 2014 about how animation for kids is complete bullhunky has some amazing comments about people explaining why. It's hardly limited to animation. Any activity or entertainment that is perceived as being outside your demographic, either age or sometimes gender, gets you negative judgment from others. I'm in my 30s and I'm unashamed to love video games, Ghibli and Pixar films, Lego Avatar The Last Airbender, and the Percy Jackson YA novels. Anyone who restricts themselves to only what's intended for their age and gender is missing out on a great deal of what life has to offer because they're afraid of looking childish. It's such a big thing that people don't want to watch a cartoon because they think people will call them childish or weird, but what's weird is people saying that you are childish for watching a cartoon when they have no more childhood left and can't even see themselves watching a cartoon. I'm close to 40 and it bugs my wife and dad to no end that I still watch cartoons and read comic books. Of course, they both watch the most unimaginative drivel possible, ranging from sports to reality TV. A lady at work once told me that she doesn't watch anything sci-fi or fantasy oriented because it can never happen, so why bother thinking about it? But I think, why watch anything related to reality, because it's happening all around you to billions of people, and frankly, it's mundane and uninteresting. This person brings up such a great point on, like, dude, who cares how old you are? Just watch whatever you want to watch. They are 40 and still watching cartoons. Like, that's rad. They mentioned that, why would I want to watch anything that's related to reality when it's all around you? That's such a great point because so many people just don't think they should watch cartoons because they're childish. Total chat. I always get the grow up, will you, when I say I watch Adventure Time or even the recent Mickey Mouse shorts, because you know adults watch Game of Thrones and things like that. Of course. When discussions like this happen, I always remember something that happened when I was little. You see, when I was around 5 or 6 years old, I was the biggest Winnie the Pooh fan. I had the cassette tapes, the books, the toys, everything. Forward some years later to the age when it's hip to mock childish things because shame, and I did it like everyone else. But then I took to my family and my aunt gave me a look so severe and said, "You liked it?" And I felt it like a slap to the face. I really like this comment because it's such an interesting story about this guy who was like a huge Winnie the Pooh fan until he became the age that it was trendy to mock and hate on things that were considered childish. And then he started talking poo. Hey, that was a good one, okay? His aunt heard him talking smack about it and was like, "But you liked it!" Not again! People really don't understand the appeal and art behind cartoons, and personally, I just think that cartoons are not for kids, and nothing will ever make me change my opinion on— How dare you say cartoons are not for kids? They're obviously for kids, you Hey Arnold looking freak. Quickly transition to the— So after that brutal attack, there are still some people out there who haven't changed their minds on cartoons, but what's more mind-changing, is that a saying? Then art. There is so much that goes on behind a cartoon to make it what it is. The writing, storyboarding, illustration, voice acting, animation. There is so much that goes on when just making one episode of a cartoon show. With regular show, each episode took around 9 months to complete, and that's a 35-member team doing everything. When thinking about your favorite cartoon, you really have to understand everything that went into just creating one frame or one scene from an episode. Like a scene from Amphibia could look great on the surface, but under that there is so much that has to be done to make the show look how it is. A treat that is only in animation is just how freaking epic the backgrounds and the art look. Literally any of these frames can be a wallpaper, and to prove it, They are. But now more than ever, there are moments in cartoons where the animation is so hot. I mean smooth. Hot. Like in the Owl House intro. And so many more times that I won't show you throughout the show because the fight scene in the Steven Universe movie and of course, James Baxter. Just rewatching a cartoon and looking at the backgrounds and locations that the characters are in, even the park from regular show. It's a park, why does it look this good? This also ties into the argument because art is enjoyed by anyone, no matter what age you are, and literally a screenshot from any cartoon can be considered as art. Even some of the worst cartoons make you just sit back in awe and look at the atmosphere that the cartoon is creating. Going back to that article, it says that nothing tells a tale more vividly and gorgeously than a work of animation, and yes, this goes for CGI and live action too. The story and visual elements together create art that is such an amazing reason for you to still be watching cartoons, no matter how far back your hairline has receded. Now with all that said, I think there's one thing making cartoons rewatchable 100 million years into the future, and that is... So I didn't really know what to call this section, but I guess Free-Toons will do. Idiot! Now to explain that awful title better, cartoons are one of the best ways of feeling free. Free from worries and responsibilities, your boring job and life, and so much more that I will dig my cartoon teeth into very soon. Freedom is such a hard thing to achieve. You could be 90 years old, lived an incredible life, but still not feel free. No one really knows why, but I do know that cartoons are freedom. Watching a cartoon and relating to the characters and going on a path and a journey with the characters is just so freeing. You can literally feel like you are going on a journey with friends, but these friends actually invite you to things. Trauma aside, the freedom I get from watching an episode of Gravity Falls is crazy. It should be studied. By me. Take season 1, episode 15 of Gravity Falls. It's summer, it's the hottest day of the year, and Dipper, Mabel, Sue, Wendy, and Grunkle Stan go to the local pool.
It's like the bus, but wet.
It's so relatable, and it really makes you feel like you were going on a trip with them, discovering the backstory of a merman and burning a child.
Yes, yes, burn the child.
Everyone can relate to that, which is why cartoons are so great for all ages. There's so much representation in cartoons, and even on kids' networks like Disney Channel. Just look at the Owl House, and the amount of representation they've done for kids media is insane. The different skin colors and sexualities being represented in these shows is such a great thing for kids to grow up on, and even though, look at me, I am the blonde default skin from Fortnite, I can't relate to this. There are so many amazing people working their asses off to get a bunch of drawings to connect into a video, and for most of them to get absolutely no support and their hard work getting cancelled, sucks. And everyone that does animation deserves so much more support. There's such a broad audience for cartoons and animation that so many people just don't realize, just because they think that cartoons are for kids. Adults and teenagers should be watching more cartoons because there's so much entertainment and value in a mystic or realistic setting that people can just sit back and enjoy. If you have kids, put on a show that looks great and spend some quality time with them just bonding and watching a show you guys can both enjoy together. I just love how freeing a cartoon can be and how much joy you can get from watching it. It's unlike any other medium out there. Let's look at season 1, episode 2 of Regular Show, where Mordecai and Rigby have to do a boring park job of setting up the chairs. One thing leads to another, and a video game world-destroying monster is exploding the park in a child's birthday party.
These birthday parties, huh?
Mondays, am I right? That wasn't that bad. But there's a really great moment of relatability that's so fun and entertaining to watch. Freedom is not just from you and me watching the show, but the creators of the show. They can do literally anything. There's nothing that you can't think of that can't be done in a cartoon. That's why it's so rewarding for the creators of the shows to do anything they want. Because in live action or reality shows, there's not as much of a visual treat towards the viewers. Sure, show Chris Hemsworth's butt and the crowd goes wild, but look at this scene from Adventure Time. That was beautiful. That couldn't have happened in any other type of media, and that's the beauty of cartoons. You can literally do anything. It's so great too, because when I was younger, the only time I had cable was at my grandparents' house. I would put on channel 102, Cartoon Network, and when Adventure Time came on, it would make no sense. But now I'm rewatching it and it's so good. There's so much more to the show that I can just appreciate and understand compared to when I was younger and just waiting for Johnny Test to come on. Actually, I always hated that show. There's just so much freedom when making a cartoon or watching a cartoon that's so crazy different compared to anything else, and that's why I think anyone can enjoy it. Whatever age you are, whatever gender or ethnicity you are, cartoons are for everyone. Unless this guy's in it, then avoid it at all costs.